I'm here. I didn't hit the right button. I hope everybody's well and having a good night. Now, my voice ain't the best, so I probably won't say a whole lot tonight. I'll probably do a lot of talking in the chats if I can keep up with both chats. I hope everybody's having a good day and a good start to their new year. I really do. Now, mine started off a little rough just because of my voice and tremors. I was due to have a big one, so I did. That's why I'm all cleaned. I was shaving and didn't work out very good. At least I kept a stepper. Hey, Callie, how you doing, Mr. Snyder? Good to see you. You're on the regular one. Cool. I'm trying to get used to having both here. So I'm not in either chat right now. So, but hello, how are you? I hope you're having fun out there in the fun in the sun. If it's fun out there, I don't know. White, you're still in Hawaii, right? Sorry. Like I said, I'm having issues. So I'll probably start the video probably in a few minutes here. I don't want to wear my voice out too bad. But I hope everybody's had a good start to the new year. Pretty chilled here. Yes. Yes, that's what I thought. It's chilly here. It's not bad. It's 27. I feel so weird with it on my face. Every time I shave, I feel like this. I'm all out of whack. I put my glasses on, but because the way my tremors are, it messes with my eyesight too, so it makes me get a headache. So I'm going blind. I'm not going to say blind, but yeah. Let people know we will be back Friday at 8 o'clock. We're going to be doing the missing cases and 411s, true crime stuff, cold cases, and we'll still be doing the paranormal. We're going to mix it up a little bit. She wants to gravitate and grow. So we will be here Friday at 8. I hope to see you all there. Excuse me. See what else is going on. That's pretty much it right now. Just hang tight. We'll get to full swing here pretty soon. Now, the Wednesdays are done for me for a while until things chill out here and I chill out. I've been trying to watch The Voice. Like I said, last few days have been didn't start the new year the way I wanted to, but I was due for a big one. I knew it was coming. It was just a matter of time. And tonight we're going to be, I had a couple ideas for our replay for tonight. I'm going to give them to you, and then you guys tell me what you think. I'll have to look in both chats, but I also have you guys up here in StreamYard, and it shows me where everybody's at. Okay, let me pull them up here real fast. I can do the Currency Village time slip, and then after that I could do more time slip and glitches in the Matrix, and then the other one I was going to do, if everybody's into the aliens, because last week we did aliens. Where was it? Insanely strange and bizarre MIB encounters that prove they aren't real. They aren't real. We'll see how that one goes. So those are the three. Unless you want more alien stuff, but you have to tell me. Let me check them up first. Put them on here. Latro, how you doing, good old man? You're on the phone one. I call it the phone one. Forgive the heavy breathing because I'm trying to talk. Now, I know Mr. Snyder is on the regular. Who's with him? If anybody. Why is this happening? There we go. Makes me spin back and forth. I hate that. There we go. Okay. Well, I'll just pick one then. Batra, how you doing, sir? How's those eyes doing? I'm going to come just back out of those. I'll just have to be careful how much I talk. It's too hard to go back and forth. Hey, Latro. You're doing good, bud. Like I said, we will be back on Friday. Now, folks, remember, there might be shows where I may not sew a whole lot, and I will say that until I get in and get everything done. And even then, I can't guarantee how good my voice will be. Doing okay, all this. Oh, good man. Good man. Been keeping you in my thoughts, dude. That's good, though. You're starting to get back to normal a little bit. I hope so. Let me get this one ready. I'll just go ahead and pick one. Let's do the Kensley first, since we have two of them that'll go together. Let me get that ready to rock and roll. There we go. Okay, that one's pretty much ready to go. So all I have to do is tag. Okay. Oops. 1 second. There we go. But yeah, I'm going to start them here pretty soon. Like I said, I'm just kind of keeping tabs on the old voice. And let's see what else is going on. Gemma's a relative's having fun night with bingo. I guess she did pretty good. She won a nice little troll setup. You know how her and trolls, so, or gnomes, or whatever you want to call them. Gnomes, I should say gnomes, right? Yeah, gnomes. Not trolls or gnomes. So yeah. It was pretty cute. If you have TikTok, she's got it on there. They pretty cute little setup. I'll be busy 5 minutes. Oh, you're fine, Latro. You do what you need to do. I'm going to start this, like I said, I'm going to kind of keep my voice down. I'll do my best to bounce back and forth through the chats. I don't have my other screen up. It's got to be a hassle for a moment. And I'll try to keep up with everybody, and I will keep an eye on StreamYard because it tells me where everybody's at. And if I see somebody ask a question, I'll just go to that space and talk and answer. And let me get this baby rocking and rolling. And let's go ahead and get this started. And thanks, folks, for being patient with me. Just be patient. And let's get this baby rocking. Okay. Make sure I can share. Okay, let me do that first. There we go. All right, here we go. Let me set her up in full size. Now, if you guys have problems with sound, let me know.
What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, just welcome. My name is GemmaJade. And today we are going to be discussing the Kersey Village time slip. As I continue my research into shadow entities, extraterrestrials, and all sorts of other entities that feed on us and who might very well be after our souls, I decided to take just a short time out and get into one of my other most favorite subjects for this channel and in general, and that's
I will turn the sound off.
So I've covered just a couple of these so far, and there always seems to be a really good response from you guys, and I simply find them fascinating, as I basically find everything that I cover on this channel, right? All things supernatural, paranormal, extraterrestrial, otherworldly, Gemma's world. Before we get into today's video, though, I just want to say that everybody that's been hitting me up for information or advice or wanting to talk about shadow entities or any other kind of phenomenon that you're dealing with, don't stop. That's totally great. Just be patient with my replies. Send it to my email if you want to set up a face-to-face video call. Email back and forth with me. I have no problem helping you guys out to the best of my ability. My email information will be in the description box, and I'll let you guys know at the end of the video. One more thing before we get into today's video, though, I want to let you know it is sponsored. Yes, and it is sponsored by LA Nail Reserve of Los Angeles. It is a vegan and cruelty-free gel soak
Hold on,
off
please,
nail polish. Okay, you do need a UV lamp, but I got a really cheap one off Amazon for like $7 and it did the job, guys. So I put one coat on my nails of each. Okay, so base coat, color, and top coat, right? And don't let my poor nail.
Hold on, it's gonna take it a minute to catch up. Sorry about that. I forgot she had the advertisement on. Give it 1 sec. And it's old. That stuff was, she said after she used it a couple times, it was just a nightmare.
Don't let that stop you. In the description box, you will find a link to Nail Reserve Los Angeles' site, and you will get 50% off your entire order with code GemmaJ, capital GEMMA. Guys, let me know if you go. Let me know what you order. Send me pictures, email, text me pictures of the colors that you choose, because I am definitely going to be going back there and getting some more colors. Thank you so much, Nail Reserve Los Angeles, for sponsoring not only this video, but the Gemma Jade channel and brand in general. I can't appreciate you guys enough. I feel so thankful and blessed. And thank you all for taking this couple of few minutes to listen to me discuss the sponsor, because that is how this channel is going to go forward faster and help me create better videos for you guys. A little nervous. Now, let's get into today's video and discuss what has come to be known as the Kersey Village time slip. So many of us have heard of time slips before, and maybe some of us have possibly experienced them before, knowingly or not. That's the thing with time slips. It's one of those things, like, if you didn't experience it yourself, then most likely you're just going to have to decide for yourself if you believe each individual story or not. Most of them, I believe, and I also believe that a lot of us have these time slips or glitches, but they're so quick that we don't notice them, or they happen to us in what we consider to be a dream or a nightmare, and we end up dismissing them as such. This is one I find very interesting and also very believable, but let me know what you all think in the comments below, please. Time slips are instances where either a person or a bunch of people seem to pass through that veil that we're always talking about. The veil between space and time in our own reality and some other reality altogether. Sometimes we are brought to the past, and sometimes just an alternate reality where things are kind of the same, but just different enough that we can sense something is wrong or off. Though still quite rare, I'm starting to see time slips and glitches much more these days than ever before. And not just in like the time slip stories, YouTube creators where they put together like the alleged user experiences, like actually seeing them in like clients and like you guys talking to me, and even in my own life too, when I take a walk in those woods over there. But I'll give you guys some of those stories coming up soon. Time slips seem to be yet another phenomenon that's occurring more often in this day and age. And as always, too, I'm not too sure if it's just because we have access to other people's accounts of them now with the internet, if we're able to better document them, or why they're happening more. Maybe it's that veil I'm always talking about that's thinning. I'm really not sure either way, but they do tend to be extremely bizarre, and they often leave the witness or the victim, for lack of a better word, experiencer maybe, they leave them frazzled, obviously, and sometimes terrified or scared, with not much of any explanation as to what in the world just happened to them or why. So, a small group of young men in England allegedly experienced one of these time slips, and it's what is being called today the Kersey Village time slip. Let's go back into the fall of 1957, late October to be exact, and I'll gladly interject here to call attention to when this is said to have taken place, a time when the veil was said to be most thin, and therefore access to other dimensions and realms, and also the spirit world, is most likely to occur. So what I mean by this is, everyone says on Halloween the veil is the thinnest. Yes, but in my experience and in my semi-professional opinion, the veil starts thinning in the beginning of October and just keeps going right along until the 31st. But that's just me. 3 cadets from the Royal Navy went out to Suffolk in the English countryside and were simply supposed to participate in and carry out a basic map reading exercise. No GPS or sat nav back in those days, you know, so the cadets' names were William Lang, Ray Baker, and Michael Crowley. No relation to our beloved Crowley on this channel, most likely. And their mission was to follow a route through the more scenic areas, recognize their assigned locations, of which there were several, map where their checkpoints were, take down some notes on what they saw and observed during all of this, and then go back to where they originally came from and report what they had seen and took notes on to their superior officers. The countryside through Suffolk was especially picturesque on this bright and sunny day in October of 1957, and the young men considered their objectives simple enough and easily obtainable, and therefore reasoned it wouldn't take them very long to complete their mission and return to report back. Along their way, they passed the hamlet of Kersey, which at the time was a delightful and endearing little village, which was populated by only a couple of hundred residents, if that. Kersey was also well known for its rural streets and buildings left over from actual medieval times. It seemed to be just another normal day in the quiet little village, and as the men looked on, they could hear the church bells ringing and see the smoke coming out of the chimneys of the aforementioned quaint little houses. Kersey was one of the assigned points on their maps in which they were supposed to go into and observe it, but here's where things start to get bizarre, and it got that way in the blink of an eye, it seems. The church bells were no longer ringing, and even the birds had seemed to have stopped humming their previously very loud tunes. It even seemed as though the wind had stopped altogether, and there was no longer any sound at all in or around this little hamlet. It was eerily quiet, and it seems as if the three young Navy men noticed it immediately. Something was very wrong here. Side note, guys, this is so similar to my Glimmerman encounter and encounters with all different kinds of otherworldly phenomenon you guys have experienced and sent into me and that we've talked about. It's like this happens all the time in the woods before being approached by or bearing witness to one bizarre thing or another or a predatory creature, right? The leaves weren't even rustling in the streets nor making a sound as the now on alert men walked over them. So, you know how leaves crunch under your feet? It was quiet enough that they should have heard that, and they didn't. The branches of the trees stood still themselves, and it was like everything had suddenly been put under some sort of spell, one that made silence fall down completely around these three men. Ducks who were only seconds ago frolicking in a nearby stream were now completely motionless as if frozen in time, along with even the plumes of chimney smoke also spotted and permeating the air just seconds before. The ducks were stone still as though they were statues, and the chimney smoke that they were just looking at and observing 5 minutes, not even before this, there was no more of it. There weren't even any people out walking despite the mildness of the day and the sun burning brightly down on the streets all around them. It was beautiful out. As they entered the village proper, it seemed all but deserted, and one of the cadets would describe it thus, quote, "It was a ghost village, so to speak. It was almost as if we had walked back in time. I experienced an overwhelming feeling of sadness and depression in Kersey, but also a feeling of unfriendliness in unseen watchers, which sent shivers up one's back. I wondered if we knocked at a door to ask a question, who might have answered it. It does not bear thinking about." End quote. As they went about exploring the village, they noticed there were no vehicles anywhere, no bicycles, and even no telephone wires for those who had the luxury of a home phone at the time. They were actually more common than I thought at this time, as I realized when I just looked that up. I'm still reeling from imagining some ducks just standing perfectly still. It gave me the chills when I read that and when I thought about it. So, no wires to run the telephone system, and the streets were just cobblestone and broken up, not paved in cobblestone as they normally would have been and had always been for as long as anyone there could remember, including the cadets. It had an old-fashioned kind of feel to it, the roads and the bare skies and streets, and it gave the cadets a sense of eeriness, and it even scared them a little bit. As I mentioned earlier, Kersey was known for having medieval-style buildings, but what they saw now was different. There seemed to be nothing at all around them that was modern, including the houses. All of the homes were of a medieval style, all hand-built and timbered frame, with greenish glass windows covered with a film of like filth and grime and muck. Crazier still was the fact that the season seemed to no longer be fall and now had completely changed. As one of the cadets would describe it, quote, "It was verdant and the trees were the magnificent green color of one finds in spring or early summer," end quote. The men decided to approach one of the evidently deserted buildings, and when they peered inside, they were creeped out to see that they were staring into the window of some obviously long ago deserted butcher shop. There were rotting cow carcasses, among other things I won't even mention because it's gross. The men would again describe this creepy scene and state, quote, "There were no tables or counters, just 2 or 3 whole oxen carcasses which had been skinned and in places were quite green with age. There was a green painted door and windows with smallish glass panes, one at the front and one at the side, rather dirty looking. I remember that as we looked through that window in disbelief at the green and moldy green carcasses. The general feeling certainly was one of disbelief and unreality. Who would believe that in 1957 that the health authorities would allow such conditions? End quote. They peered into other buildings as well, and the ones that appeared, at least outwardly, to be residences that should have had people and families living in them were completely deserted as well. There was no sign anyone had lived in any of them for at least a while. There was no furniture, no curtains, no sign of life at all. It was almost as though either one of two things had happened. Either the residents who once lived there got up one day and suddenly abandoned their homes and took every scrap of anything they ever owned with them, or no one had ever lived there at all, which means the men weren't possibly in Kersey. Though small and quaint as it was a well-known town and was populated by at least a couple of hundred people. If you remember just a few moments ago, there was smoke coming from the chimneys in most, if not all, of these now completely empty and seemingly abandoned homes. What in the world was happening here? The men decided they needed to find some sort of well-known landmark and get their bearings, thinking that somehow, however unlikely it was, they'd gotten lost maybe. They followed their maps to where the church would have been and should have been, but it wasn't there and seemed as though it never had been there at all. This church was the most famous building in the whole town, and the men had also just seen this particular landmark from outside the town only moments ago. They saw the steeple and heard the bells ringing just as they had seen the chimney smoke. These three cadets were downright and flat out scared at this point and decided to nope the heck out of there as quickly as they possibly could. They would later report that the second they stepped out of the village proper, everything suddenly went back to normal. The chimney smoke started coming from the homes again, and the church bells could be heard ringing from at least a mile away. The trees once again swayed in the breeze that was blowing again, the birds chirped, and the ducks frolicked along in the pond in the crisp and cool, breezy autumn air. Perhaps strangest of all was the church tower and how it could be seen once again from outside the village as it hovered over the rest of Kersey. The men, now extremely confused and bordering on the verge of absolute terror, made their way back to their base and excitedly but nervously reported everything that they had observed to their superiors. That was their mission, after all. One by one and all together, they reported the high strangeness of what they had just bore witness to, whatever it was they had no idea, in the small village of Kersey. Their superiors just shrugged it off, and although they confirmed the three cadets had in fact reached Kersey, as it was evidenced by the marks they had made on their maps and the notes they had taken along the way, their accounts of all the strange happenings and everything else were simply brushed off and not given another thought, as was usually the case back then, especially with the military in the 1950s and 60s. I mean, be that as it may, the men who experienced all of it couldn't stop thinking about it, but what could they really do? They were simply ignored by anyone who would listen, and their superiors kept telling them to just forget it and not to talk about it anymore. So they did, or at least they tried to forget as best as anyone can something like what they had witnessed. In the 1980s, though, a paranormal researcher named Andrew Mackenzie, who was an investigator for and a member of the Society for Psychical Research, received a letter from two of the cadets, William Lang and Michael Crowley. Obviously intrigued, Mackenzie met with the two men and even went to the village with them so they could show him where everything had happened and better explain what they had experienced that fall day so long ago, yet so vividly fresh, still in both of their minds. The more the men explained to Mr. Mackenzie, the more convinced he became that they were telling the truth and that they had witnessed not only something possibly paranormal, but also something truly spectacular as well. Remember, this happened in the late 50s, and even in the 80s, when they brought Mackenzie into this type of thing, it wasn't very common. And if it was, it definitely was not commonly talked about. Glitches in the Matrix just weren't a thing yet. Andrew Mackenzie was an investigator after all, and as much as he wanted to believe the former cadets at just their word, he couldn't take what they were saying at face value, and so he looked deeper into it. What he found was absolutely fascinating. It turns out what the men had witnessed was very much historically accurate. The building with the deserted cow carcasses had in fact been a butcher shop at one time. However, in 1957, when the men were visiting, it was supposed to have been a private residence. Other observations William and Michael had recounted and claims they had made also historically lined up with the history of the town. It was considered information not likely known to the two cadets at their age and at the time. There was no internet, there was no Google, and therefore how would these young cadets ever even know the location of a random butcher shop that hadn't been there for decades, centuries actually, or what the whole place would look like before the famous church was even built? Why would these young men even care about such a thing? Eventually, after wholeheartedly believing that the men had in fact experienced a time slip, Mackenzie was even able to pinpoint exactly what time they had slipped into. It hadn't been decades after all, but like I said, it had been centuries. The seemingly total desertion of the village and the fact that the tower hadn't been built yet led him to surmise that the men had slipped back into the 1400s. In Kersey, when it had been devastated and absolutely wiped out by the Black Death, or more commonly known here in the United States, the Black Plague. Ever researched the idiotic reason that horrific plague had to happen to all of those people? It had to do with the killing of cats because of a version of satanic panic to rival what happened in the 80s here. But if you want more on that, let me know, and I will happily do a whole video on it. It's very dumb, but also extremely fascinating. The domino effect of killing cats in a time when rats and nastiness were rampant. Anyways, yeah, the three cadets had inadvertently traveled back into the 1400s. Andrew Mackenzie even included the cadets' experience in a book he wrote in 1997 called Adventures in Time, which contained nothing but examples of time slips just like the one the cadets had in Kersey. Skeptics say that glass, especially green glass, would have been far too expensive in the early 1400s, so it's unlikely that most, if not all, of the buildings would have used it for windows like we do today, or like they most certainly did back in the 1950s. It was also brought to light, notice the quotations, the meat was very expensive and a luxury, and therefore there wouldn't have been so many cow carcasses as the cadets described in a small butcher shop for such a tiny little hamlet as Kersey was in the 1400s and in the 1950s. After all, it was even smaller and less populated centuries beforehand. Is there a rational explanation, or did these men go through a time slip and end up in the 1400s? There is absolutely and obviously no way we could ever know for sure, but I'll certainly let you all in on my opinion, which is probably no secret at all, and say, hell yeah, they did. And perhaps, despite the glass windows and extra rotting carcasses, I believe that they did indeed move through time somehow. How? I don't know, but to possibly explain the glass windows and carcasses, I'll posit this. Perhaps, just maybe, they weren't actually transported there, but were shown the devastation left behind by the Black Plague for whatever reason. I don't have a clue. So maybe the butcher's meat was exaggerated, or how do we know Kersey didn't at some point supply meat to surrounding towns and villages or something like that? Maybe there were farms nearby, or maybe Kersey was farmland back then and grew cows. I don't know. And maybe, just maybe, these three Royal Navy cadets weren't material experts and just thought what they were seeing was glass. It had, after all, been covered in grime and dust and whatever other muck was there, right? So how would they really know? I don't know, guys. I'm just giving you all my opinion. Please feel free to give your opinion respectfully in the comments, because I am really looking forward to hearing them. That's all I have for you today, guys. Please give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed the content, if you enjoyed hanging out with me, if you enjoy time slips. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Go on over and subscribe to Moon Bear Oracle, my kind of up-and-coming project, work in progress channel. I appreciate all of you guys who are over there supporting me, even though there's not much content coming. Yes, I am getting there.
Let me clear that. Get down to small size. I don't want to scare anybody. Okay, hold on 1 second. Oh, I hate when it does this. 1 sec. In case I do another one here. We'll see what goes down. Hope everybody enjoyed that one. Where are you? Take this. Makes me start all over. I've been doing them straight from her catalog because she gets the view count for it, instead of me downloading them and then playing them. She gets this way. She gets the view. Here we go. Okay, that one's up when I'm ready. So I hope everybody's having matro. There's a spooky story about a guy and his wife peacefully sleeping, when all of a sudden angels visited and swooped them off to New York City. I feel so weird without my face, my beard. That's fun. Man, that strip was pretty good tonight. It was a little hard to swallow, but I had to chew it up a lot. But man, it was good. Why did I get so dark? Oh, because I'm switching with the camera. I'm watching because I keep forgetting how delayed YouTube is. But I hope you're having a good one, Latro. Did you have a good New Year's Eve? Now, I don't know if you heard, Latro, but we will be back Friday night, 8 o'clock. So pass the word around. I'm sure she'll do some more videos or TikToks. But yeah. And then I think I'll go ahead and do another one. That way we keep it about an hour. Like I said, until I get the voice fixed, I'll have good nights and bad nights. This is not one of my better nights. But I wanted to be here. I like being here since I can't really do Wednesdays anymore at the time being. Hello, Miss Vixen. How are you doing, my dear? I hope you are well. Long time no speaketh. Now, we haven't set anything off yet, Vixen. We've had some issues here. And so I've had to put on everything on hold. But you have not been forgotten about. Believe me. I hope you're good, though, and I hope you've been having a good time. I hope you had a good New Year's, however you celebrate it. Good, Vixen, good. Don't do anything New York other than hang with Midwest Night Watchers feed. Okay. NYE. Okay. Midwest Night Watchers feed. You're on YouTube? I'll have to look them up if it's an actual. Is it a channel? If you got the channel outro, drop it in the comments. Or if you can't, I don't know if it'll let you put it in the chat. I got to sit down and tell her to make some people, give some people, because Vixen needs to get her a wrench too. Yeah, Kai was here for a little bit. Vixen, you must be on the other one. I can see you, hon. I'm just not in the other chat since we have two chats now. Latro's in the phone chat, and you're in the regular chat. I don't know if Kai's still there or not. I hope he is. If not, that's okay. I know there's a lot going. We'll have a lot going on, and he's still be a little bit behind on time. He's out in Hawaii. They had a possum drop from GA. Oh, really? How funny. But yeah. And I'm going to do the next one. And the next one I'm going to do is another time slip and matrix glitches. Sorry, like I said. Hello, good folks. At midnight, at Midwest Night. Okay, I'll check that out. Thanks, Latro. I will check them out. I like new channels. Big chance I might have already known about them. I won't know it until I see it. I've seen so many. Now I have to cut back, and then YouTube also gets rid of channels for you too. So make sure you check your subscriptions. I'm just making sure I see everybody. Let me pop over here in the other chat real quick. Yeah, I'm just going back and forth in chat. There you go. So you know I can see you, Vixen. Go back in the other one and go flip-flopping. All right. Well, if you guys want me to, I'll start this next one. I'll probably end at about 1 o'clock. And let's get this other one going. Please feel free to chat and have a good time. If you want to chat after, just make sure you say something after the next video upload. I'll let you guys chat for a while. I'll just kind of hang out. They're on the farm in North Illinois. Let me click on the other one. That's fine, Vixen. You can join in anyone you want. It is funny, though. I switch back and forth just to make sure I keep up with everybody. Let them know I see them both ways. But I see everybody in the StreamYard too, so. My hair's getting long and I got rid of my beard. I look even weirder now. I love it. Won't take long for it to go back. I've already got stellar coming in already. So, anything exciting going on before I start this next video? Everybody having a good time, having a good weekend. Hope everybody has a good Sunday, but I'll say that at the end. Those coming and going, please make sure you hit that like. I'd appreciate it. Gemma would definitely appreciate it. You know, leave a comment too. If you saw a video on here that you like, leave a comment. Make sure you let her know. She does check YouTube, just not like she used to. Sometimes I have to remind her to go back and check at least the uploads. She got a lot going on, but we will be back Friday, 8 o'clock. Friday nights at 8. We'll be talking. We will talk paranormal, but we'll get in some cold cases and missing 411s and stuff like that. We're going to mix it up. Latra, you try and tell me you want the next one to be a UFO one? I can do that instead of another glitch or time slip. Let's see what I got here. If that's what you want, say yay. Who? Throw those UFOs up. There's Vixen. You people are talking. At least I got somebody talking. And those who are watching, I'll start the next video. Hey, you want a UFO one? I can do a UFO one. I had a couple in mind as backups because I know people like to mix it up. Let's see, what was that? You want to do MIB? Let me see. Let's find something even more fun. You want to do it? Okay, let's do this one. It's 14 minutes. And I can talk to you guys a little bit before I call it. What do you battle watch? Abducted by aliens in plain sight, number 1, or number 2, the man who spent 10 days aboard an alien spacecraft. Which one would you guys prefer? 1 or 2? You pick. Okay, I'll pick. Let's do the let's do the alien, the man who spent 10 days aboard an alien craft. And one who spent 5. It's 20 minutes long. It's 3 years old. Let's do that one. Okay. I paused it right when she had her mouth open. Funny. Okay, let me get this listed up here. Hope they fix this thing soon because I can't stand talking like this and it hurts. Let's see. There we go. Share. Make big. She even had a bar on it. We go.
What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, just welcome. My name is GemmaJade, but today we are going
once again, if you have sound problems or anything, let me know.
Who claims to have been abducted on a spaceship for 10 days, and then I found another encounter where someone claimed to have been abducted for multiple days before being brought back to Earth. So I talk a lot on this channel and in general about extraterrestrials and abductions. There are so many different types of abductions and so many extraterrestrial species. I can't even imagine how many we aren't even aware of yet on both counts. Somehow discussing topics like these makes it become somewhat blasé, which in and of itself should be very concerning to us if that's the case. If something like being abducted by aliens is old hat, maybe there's a problem with us or a problem here. However, I will say that no matter how much I come back around to this topic, I can't get enough of it. And every once in a while, there's an abductee or two who will come along with a story so strange and unbelievable, I can't help but to jump in and further investigate it and hope that I can find some backup information or actual facts so that I'm able to believe in it. That's exactly what I brought to you all today. There is a man named Alec Newald who claims he was not only abducted by aliens, but that he was kept with them for 10 whole days before they returned him back to his home in New Zealand. Let's dive right in, shall we? February of 1989 is where it all began, with Alec Newald claiming that while driving along one night, something happened that made it so his car was about to go flying into and then careening off of a very steep cliff. He said that at first he sincerely thought that he had reached the afterlife and that he had in fact gone headlong off of that cliff, vehicle and all, and that he had died and crossed over. Quote, I was driving the car and it felt like a ton of bricks had landed on me, like someone had poured cement on me. I felt like I was pushed into the seat of the car, end quote. Alec claims that he thought he had died because when he came to, he knew somehow that he was in spirit form and that the other beings around him, who mostly seemed to be people or human beings, were also in the same spiritual state. This thought lasted only a couple of minutes, though, when all of a sudden he was approached by these tiny little strange looking creatures. They were 3 to 4 feet tall and had large heads with very squinty and beady eyes. One of these beings was very clearly and very obviously the leader of this little pack here. This leader approached Alec and spoke to him, telepathically saying, quote, welcome, I am the designated guardian of this section. Anything that you feel you might need to make your stay with us more pleasant, ask and I shall do my best to supply it. The suit you have been given will make it possible for you to understand us and us you, end quote. Alec describes what happened next and says he was given a body and was able to see that the ship he was in was suddenly descending into some foreign and beautiful but eerie kind of city. It was huge and it was fabulous and it was nothing like anything that we have ever seen here on Earth, that's for sure. The buildings in this gigantic city had 3 shapes, tubular, round, and pyramid shaped. The architecture was bold and somewhat astounding, and Alec couldn't get enough of everything he was seeing and taking in all at once. He was escorted into some sort of flying or floating car, a hover car maybe, and he was given a tour in this vehicle, which he described as, quote, a stealth fighter cockpit with no wings, end quote, which was controlled partly by the mind and partly by magnetic repulsion. He claims he was also given a lot of historical information as well as technical information. These particular aliens claim to have helped the evolution of humans on the planet, and also they claim to have helped the evolution of the planet itself as well, that being planet Earth. His stay abruptly ended without much ado or fanfare, as one day he was suddenly back home in his room again in Auckland, New Zealand, and 10 full days had passed. Alex said he was very confused and disoriented. Alex said it didn't take long for him to figure out that whatever had happened to him, it was huge and a mega big deal. He was visited almost immediately after returning home by men who said they were, quote, 2 New Zealand DSIR, Department of Scientific and Industrial Research, scientists, end quote. Alec realized very quickly that these men knew far too much about him, and this fact alone told him these men were definitely not who they said they were, and that they weren't working for the branch of government that they claimed they were, or probably they weren't even working for any type of government or any kind of government officials or agents at all. Alec Newland did write a fascinating book about his experiences for that 10 days he was abducted and staying as a guest to some unknown alien life forms who seemed to know a lot about humans and our planet, and who even claimed, as I stated earlier, to have been very much responsible for our and our planet's evolution. However, it seemed that the more that he tried to promote his book titled Coevolution, the more people gave him a hard time. Basically, he was completely and totally ostracized and ridiculed by the general public and the ufology community in general. The little bit of ufology community that there was back in 1989 anyway. Alex stated, quote, perhaps an even bigger surprise was, with the exception of a few, the more I tried to share this information, the harder my life became. I was ostracized by people you might have expected support from. In fact, even before I tried to share any of the things I'd learned, my life started to become more than difficult. It became impossible to continue on as I had done before, end quote. Many of the complaints come, though, only because his reports and accounts of his time allegedly spent out of this world are very brief and not very detailed. Like, I still can't figure out what type of extraterrestrials these were or what planet they could have brought him to. I mean, I just think that 10 days there, with his memory being as vivid as it seems to have been, he really blanks on the specifics in a lot of ways. That doesn't mean, though, that I don't believe him or I'm trying to discredit him. Alec is also criticized because it said that his book seems to be more of an interpretation into what might or could have happened to him and less of a first-hand or in-person account of what actually did happen to him. With the way the ufology field in this community is nowadays, though, it's said that Alec and others like him are geared to make a comeback. We want all of the information right from the source's mouth because nowadays we want to believe. It's not like back in the 80s or even the 90s. Alec's story and recounting of the experience he says he endured all those years ago hasn't changed, even if the community with which he is sharing it so drastically has. Quote, in relating the details of my own experience, I hope I can somehow convey to you that the unknown need to not be something to be feared. Personally, I am looking forward to whatever the future has to offer the human race. End quote. Well, guys, that's actually the end of Alec's story. Unless you want to buy his book, which I do recommend, I want to see what you guys think about it. So if you've ever read Coevolution or if you decide to read it, let me know your thoughts on that one. I couldn't end the video 9 minutes in, and I knew this was going to be really short. So I decided to put this next encounter here because it's a very strange one as well, and it happened a really long time ago too. I was going to do an entirely separate video on it, but figured we could round out and end this one with it instead. In the early morning hours of approximately 2 a.m. on a cold January night, way back in the year 1954, while it was still very dark outside, something very strange and eerie was about to happen. A man named Armando Zuberon was in his car driving all along the twisted and winding back roads heading from Mexico City to Acapulco in order to be on time for an early meeting the next day with one of his business partners. At the time, this was no easy journey to take. The roads were deserted, winding, and rugged, and full of mountain passes. Armando was 100% focused and alert because he knew that one tiny wrong move or turn, and he would have a life-altering or life-ending accident. Despite reporting being fully alert and wide awake, Armando claims that suddenly and without warning, he was overcome by an intense and extreme tiredness that penetrated his very bones. He called it, quote, a hypnotic state of lethargy, end quote. This is where one of the most bizarre yet not really talked about abduction stories of the modern age started to happen. Because of the extreme exhaustion that randomly overtook him, Armando knew it was very dangerous if he continued driving while feeling this way, and so he pulled his car off of the road and stopped. He just wanted to relax for a couple of moments and get his bearings before he continued on with his trip. However, this was when he saw a most unusual and unexpected sight up ahead and directly in front of him. Hovering directly above this small mountain road was a brightly lit metallic disc. Armando tried to look at the light coming from the strange craft, but even while squinting, it was incredibly bright and blinding. From what he could see, there were two extremely tall beings, one on each side of the disc. They seemed to be wearing some sort of skin-tight one-piece suits with a belt cinched over their extremely thin and tiny waists. The belts had very wide brims and looked bizarre on this already strange sight that he was beholding. Though they were still sort of blocked out by the brightness, they also seemed to have very long and flowing hair on their heads. At this point, our witness is still sitting in his vehicle and trying to not only wrap his head around what he is seeing, but trying to figure out a way to get the heck out of there before anything even stranger or possibly even worse happens to him. However, he said that as soon as he thought of leaving or taking off out of there, he was overcome with the urge to exit his vehicle and approach the strange figures and the craft itself. He said he felt as though he had no control at all over his own limbs, and I speak often about certain alien entities, mainly the MIB, who we've been talking about a little bit more often than usual the past couple of weeks, walking as though they were a puppet without the marionette strings attached. That's the same here, except it's Armando who felt as though he were being physically manipulated and his body was moving on its own and directly toward these strangers and the strange ship. Despite their being basically androgynous in their appearance, our witness recognized somehow that these entities were both male. They looked human, and I'm pretty sure that they're what we would call today the Nordics as far as I've been dealing with, and this assumption is made completely by Armando's description of them. They had blonde hair and piercing blue eyes. They almost ran to Armando's side to help him walk easier and better control his own limbs. They were very obviously trying to protect him from falling and or hurting himself. They took him by his arms, one on each side, and escorted him into what Armando could now clearly and plainly see was a spaceship, or as they were so often called back in those days, a flying saucer. The closer he got to the ship, the more a strange buzzing noise and sensation penetrated his ears and his head. Once he was on the ship and steady, he asked the entities where he was and why he had been brought there. One of them responded, speaking perfect Spanish, which was Armando's first language, and it said, quote, "You are neither the first nor the last Earthman to be chosen for our testing. Our task, slow though it may seem, is designed to persuade. We choose the likeliest, most malleable persons for contact so that they might better transmit our messages," end quote. Before he could even try to process this information, he was being shown a bunch of clips from his own life. He said it was almost as though it were a dream, but it was his life and being shown to him somehow projected right onto one of the walls of the giant ship. They didn't hold back either. There were some extremely intimate moments that any human being would be shocked to have to sit there and watch, especially given the extraordinary situation he was already in. Some of the images were from events or times that Armando didn't even barely remember until he saw it playing out there. During this little life review scenario, Armando said he drew the absolute conclusion that these beings had either been watching him for a very long time, could read and have been reading his mind, or both. The images stopped just as suddenly as they had started, and this is where a witness was given a tour of the ship. He was informed that they were no longer on Earth and that they were in fact very much further out along the solar system. Our witness said he felt no acceleration or movement of any kind and was therefore shocked by this revelation. He asked the entities why this was, and they explained to him that they used something called a, quote, gravity repulsion system, end quote. The spaceship neutralized any debris or anything else in its path, and they even let him look out of a circular window or a porthole. He could see nothing but a deep and black darkness underneath a sea of gray mist and nothing. He asked them if they were going to visit their home planet and was told no. For the next several days, Armando claimed the ship just sailed and cruised along, allegedly far out in the galaxy somewhere. In this short period of time, Armando says that he was able to learn how their ship worked and all of the ins and outs of how they traveled the way they did/do. He spent basically the entire time with the extraterrestrials who, let's face it, as nice and as accommodating as they were technically and actually his captors. He admits to having been very confused by a lot of the tech on the ship and that he was especially fascinated and somewhat perplexed by their bathroom facilities. Quote, "I shall never be able to forget it. The bathroom was a new and unimaginable experience for me. Standing upright, facing an angle of the wall filled with tiny holes, I was covered in warm air, and as it grew stronger, it became transformed into damp air, impregnating my skin like a warm, wet breeze. When I was completely drenched, I was offered a sort of liquid soap, which I rubbed all over myself from head to toe. Standing once more before the warm air sprinklers, I felt the soap begin to evaporate and my skin become completely clean. The air then ceased to be damp, turning dry and warm instead of becoming colder until agreeably cool," end quote. Our witness had all of his meals with the beings and described the food as being mainly the same as on Earth, only much tastier and seemingly much healthier. And this is not the first time by a long shot that I've heard this about certain alien races' food that they eat, or that I guess they can eat when in the presence of humans. I think they do it to make them more comfortable, but I really don't know. He said there was meat, cheese, veggies, and even some butter. He said though it was much like what we have here on Earth, it wasn't exactly that. He said though it was somewhat similar, it was nowhere near exactly the same as anything that we have to eat here on Earth. He explained that though there was meat, it was from no animal he had ever heard of, and though there were veggies and they were fresh, they were not of any type he had ever come across or eaten before. Everything he ate was accompanied by this kind of milky-like substance, which the beings told him was their main source of sustenance and that it came from their home planet. They told him they ate many fruits and veggies from here on Earth and that they were also a huge part of their own diets. They loved mangoes, for one thing, and specifically. They also explained to Armando how they got the food off of the Earth and into their ship. It was allegedly beamed up into the ship by some sort of telepathic means of communication with the energy on Earth or an entity on it helping them, I'm not sure which. That being, I'm not sure if some human or another alien stands below the ship and hovers the fruits and vegetables into it, or if the beings themselves just lifted aboard the spaceship from the inside. I guess that's neither here nor there, but you guys know me. This is the kind of stuff I think about. Armando said that during the course of his stay, he had had many discussions with these seemingly mild, peaceful, and extremely benign beings, and that through the course of these discussions, he learned that their average lifespan is 250 years. In their society, everyone and everything is treated as an equal, with there being no class or status quo. Their way of life was based on something sort of akin to what we would think of as a religion here on Earth. They believed in a being they either called the Master or the beloved number 9, and that this being or entity has kept their civilization and culture alive and thriving for millennia. This being creates and keeps the harmony in their society. Eventually, after what he would later discover was 5 whole days, Armando's time with the beings came to a very abrupt end. They brought him back to Earth, back to his car, and back to a world where he wasn't sure he could survive now that he had all of this additional information about out there. His car was still right in the spot where he had left it, and he said goodbye and thank you to the beings, his hosts, for those 5 days and 4 nights. After bidding them farewell, Armando somehow just continued right along his journey and headed to Acapulco to meet his business partner. Even though it had seemed like it had been 5 whole days while he was on the ship, he quickly became aware that here on Earth, only 90 minutes had passed, and that he would definitely still make it with time to spare to his meeting that same morning. Even stranger still was that 15 years after all of this allegedly happened, in 1969, Armando was driving to Mexico City and picked up a hitchhiker. This is completely relevant due to the fact that this hitchhiker wasn't your average man. He was a tall and thin man who had blonde hair and super intense and bright blue eyes. The hitchhiker would come forward, according to Armando, completely unprovoked, and admit that he had been one of the crew members aboard that ship all of those years ago, which had basically abducted Armando. Armando would never tell what he and this hitchhiker companion talked about after that, though he does admit they had quite the conversation. In the 1950s, there were so many reports of encounters with or abductions from these so-called Nordic aliens. They were always described as appearing somewhat angelic, tall, slim, and with blonde hair and piercing blue eyes. Could they all be somehow connected? Why don't we see these types of abductions that often, if at all anymore, in the 21st century? I'm not saying that we don't ever have encounters being reported with these aliens specifically, but it's hardly how it was back in the 50s. So, who or what did Armando encounter that night? For what purpose and or to what end? Were these actually Nordic aliens? And if so, what does that even really mean? These beings are said to be not only the most friendly toward human beings, but that they are protectors of sorts and watch over us and our planet. Were these even aliens in the sense that we have come to know them, or could they have been, as many people who have met or seen them have reported, actual and true to God angels? Are they some sort of interdimensional beings who are human beings, but a different type of human from one or another realm or dimension? While there are, of course, people out there who are highly skeptical and critical of Armando's account, others often wonder that if he was making it all up, then how in the world did he get all of the technical information he had come forward with? He was a simple rural farmer and wouldn't have had a clue as to most, if not all, of the things he described while recounting his experience. I have no idea, as I don't know Armando personally, and I'm still fairly new to this community, but I do know this. If true, then this man experienced something special and quite spectacular, and as usual, I am totally and completely jealous of the experience, of the adventure, of the meeting with the extraterrestrials and getting to see out there. That's all I have for you today, guys. Please give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed the content, if you enjoyed spending this time with me and hanging out. Subscribe if you haven't already, and please spread the love by sharing this video. Check out the description box for some important links, how to donate to the channel, PayPal, CashApp, Vero, Patreon, and my Amazon wish list gift link.
Where I remember this was 3 years old.
To donate money, you can choose a crystal, a figurine, a statue, a piece of jewelry, an oracle deck. I mean, there are so many different variety of things on there. Thank you to everyone who donated.
She's updated it since, so I'm going to go ahead and start it now. Just a lot of older stuff.
Can't thank you guys enough. I mean, you guys are amazing and spectacular, and I really
hope do enjoy you folks.
Good job at keeping you all entertained. I've hit a few snags on that business website, but I did pay for it in full, so it should be up and running very, very soon. It's not the
There we go. There we go. Yeah, I had a troll. That's all right. That was a weird one, though. That one's a little hard to take, but I remember her talking about that one. Those two. They are a little hard to believe. And I hope everybody's having a good night. I'm going to call it a night, and hopefully I'm better off next Saturday. I should be. Usually these big ones last maybe 3 to 4 days. I'm going on 4, so hopefully by tomorrow I start feeling like a human being again. So, but But the voice will be coming and going, so just bear with me. Oh, you're welcome, Latro. Yeah, a lot of people do. Thank everybody for visiting. Good work on Mr. Troll. I try to be nice. I mean, I give them a little chance, but I knew what he was going to do when he came in. I had a feeling. I'm usually pretty close. Yes, it's not as much sleep as it is just wanting to be able to talk again. So bear with me in the next couple of weeks until we figure out how we're going to do these appointments, and I get myself hopefully better if they can fix it. But I'm going to still keep doing these. I'll still be here on Saturday nights as long as I can, and we will be here Friday night at 8 o'clock. So please join us. You folks have a wonderful Sunday. Have a good first full week of the new year. And may you guys have a blessed one. And let's see what else. That should do it. So until Friday night, well, Tuesday night, if she should have I keep forgetting about her Tuesday night upload. She'll beat me now. But remember, she has an upload premiere Tuesday at 10:15. She usually posts it. She's been trying to post them early, so keep your eyes peeled. Hopefully the sound doesn't go crappy on her at the end, but at least it's happening at the end. She doesn't know why it does it. It does it in the editing. So thank you, Latro. Thank you, Vixen. Please have a wonderful one. And I shall see you guys on the flip side, I guess. I'm going to hit the old end stream here. And I miss you guys, and hopefully it can last longer next Saturday because I like talking to you guys since we really don't have a Wednesday night chat anymore. I would like to start doing that after the replays. But I just no good if I can't keep up with you folks. So I love you. Have a wonderful night. Have a blessed week. And I'll see you guys on the flip side.